Well, if everything's ready, we'll call to order the Thursday, July 7th regular meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Planning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Burgess.
Here.
Chambers. Harrison.
Here.
Milliken.
Here.
Phelps. Here. Telko.
Here.
Pitts. Swan. Bias.
Here.
Thank you. We received in our packets a copy of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Vias. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Harrison. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We also received the minutes from our June 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. Were there any comments, questions, changes? All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the June 2nd meeting?
I'll move for approval of the minutes of the June 2nd meeting.
Thank you. Motion by Burgess. Is there a second? Second by Patelko. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Any communications and announcements?
None at this time.
Okay, well then we'll move right into our public hearing. Just a reminder, we've got one public hearing on the agenda tonight. We'll hear from the applicant, and we'll hear from staff, then we'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll invite members of the public to come forward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. We'll also, because we are streaming online, we'll also have an opportunity for folks that are watching online to call in. You can call in at 888-382-9556. And folks that are online that would like to comment on the particular item on the agenda will be invited to speak at that time by staff. If you would like to comment on non-agenda items, there will be a public comment period later in the agenda, and that same call-in number can be used at that time. So with that, we will open public hearing PC 2022.06, 2001 Cameron Street, and 1510 and 1518 Bryant Street. Tree of Life School requesting special use permit for an expansion of school facilities. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll note that Chambers is present now as well for our record. The request before you tonight is a special use permit for the expansion of school facilities onto the Bryant Street lots, just mentioned as 510 and 518. And this is for the Tree of Life School. Some of you may be familiar with the school. It's come before this board previously to receive special use permission. Schools in many districts are permitted with a special use. And I'll remind you, what does a special use mean? It means that it's appropriate in that district, but maybe not in every location. And so that's why we bring it before this board to kind of go through the checklist to make sure that it is suitable for the lot in question. And so this is a shot of the lot in question where the Tree of Life School is proposing to put their recreational facilities, specifically a proposed playground and garden. And these are just some shots from around the lot in question. So down east of Bryant Street, to the west, houses to the north, and to the south. This is the Edison neighborhood, for those of you that aren't familiar with it. And so this is the zoning map for the area, and the hatched properties are those that are in question. And so the school itself on the east side of your image is actually located in M1. There's some manufacturing zoning over there. It kind of juts into the neighborhood a little bit. The remainder of the neighborhood is single-family residential RS5, and schools are pretty commonly found in the RS5 district. This is a picture of a sketch of the plan that the Tree of Life School has for how they'll be using that lot. We did mention in the staff report garden facilities as well as recreation basketball court fields. So staff is in support of this recommendation before you tonight, and as you know, there are 10 rationale that we think about with special use requests. I won't necessarily touch on all of them, but I'll hit a couple of them since it was in your packet. Again, as I said, schools are pretty commonly found in residential neighborhoods. This school has slowly expanded over the years, dating from the first request back in 2011. There are no special requirements associated with schools, in this district. They're not proposing any exterior lighting. The garden plots are going to be closer to the street with the recreation in the back. Staff found no environmental impacts, and we believe that the property has adequate and the streets have adequate capacity to handle this school expansion. It is anticipated that students will just walk across the street when they're using this site as opposed to needing additional parking for this site specifically. There's sidewalks to serve those, and any expansion would have to go through the site plan review process to make sure that it's meeting the full zoning code requirements, including landscaping. And so that is what I have for you. I'll put this back up so you can kind of get a reference on where it is, and I'll invite the applicant up to answer any questions unless you have questions for me.
Okay, are there any initial technical questions for staff at this moment? All right. Seeing none, we'll look forward to hearing from staff, or the applicant right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for hearing our request tonight. We appreciate you guys and what you do for our community. We're just very excited to have the opportunity to expand just outdoor recreational activities, not only for our students, but for the Edison community. Our existing play set that was actually on our property on the east side there was actually a residential set, a very high quality one that lasted for a decade, and we estimate that there was over 250,000 hours of play time on that set, not only by our students, but our existing community, from everyone around there. So we're always happy that we can be a part of that. And we purchased the lot to the west across the street from Cameron a few years ago, and have been just kind of waiting to see what we might be able to do in developing that to benefit our community. And we came up with the idea of the basketball court, which is actually, it would be the largest sized basketball court in our neighborhood other than Upjohn Park, which is over a mile away in the other corner. There are other ones, but the renovation at Reed Street Park is one hoop, half-size court. The one at Southside Park is actually two hopes, but it's a very, very tiny court. So we're just excited about having an outdoor opportunity. And a lot of these things, with the removal of our existing playground set, we were actually able to raise $100,000 for some commercial 35-year warranted playground equipment, which we're super excited about blessing the community with, as well as our kids. And on the heels of a pandemic and wanting to turn things into a playdemic and get people outside more, we've just been super excited about this. Again, with the basketball court, and there's also 2 tetherball courts in the drawing. And then we had a plan for some existing community gardens up front towards the street, and we actually learned that the lot to the east of that first lot was owned by the land bank, and I reached out to them, and they were more than willing to sell us the adjacent lot. I said we would love to put even more community gardens in there to bless everyone around us, and they said so as long as we got the special use permit, they would be willing to sell us that lot as well, so that we would actually be able to invest in both of those. So we're just really looking forward to the opportunity, with permission, to go out and just, again, create more opportunities where everybody can get outside and be active. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? Yes.
Okay, so with the lot, with the new space where the playground and where the new space would be for the kids to be, will there be parking there? Will that create more traffic for that area, or how exactly is that going to be?
I don't think it would, because it would be, I'm guessing, for more after-school hours, and our parking lot's right across the street, which people are more than welcome to park in. And I know that there are also strict limitations to the number of parking spaces that we can generate as a school, and we've already maxed those out. So that's by city ordinance as well. But we have events at our school all the time. We fundraiser dinners where we have, up to 200 people come in, and then people will generally just park, along the street and walk into the lot. And there is actually 100 feet along the one side and 200 feet along the long side. So I wouldn't anticipate it generating all kinds of traffic. So I would imagine that most of the people would be walking or biking from the neighborhood to do that. And then, of course, like I said, parking in our lot, of course.
Thank you.
And do you anticipate any issues with the kids crossing the street to get to the park?
No.
It looks like a pretty low-traffic street, but...
No, our kids, when they're outside, they're always, like, for our own kids,
Yeah.
they're always supervised. So nobody's running back and forth across the street. So we're very conscious about that, because there's plenty of people driving maybe beyond the speed limit in our neighborhood. So we're very aware of that. As far as our kids, I can't speak for residents using the facility, but for ours, yeah, there's always an adult moderating outdoor activity.
Is the plan for the recreational space to be fenced in, or will it be open for use outside of school hours as well by community members?
We've not, the only fence that we have on our existing property is one along Bryant Street right there, because it's so close, and it's a short fence just for our kids' sake. If they're chasing a ball, they're not just immediately running out into Bryant Street, especially with public safety. That's the access road, both to the east and the west. And so there are already fences. I think almost every property owner has fences along the back side of their house on the other side of the street there. I think they all have fences. But we're willing, if somebody doesn't have a fence, I know the closest one right on it would be of the first lot, it's right there. I don't think that person has a fence out to the road, but we would be more than happy to put something there to designate, especially from the residential lots. We would be happy to do that.
It's not a requirement. I'm just curious if it'll be open for public use outside of school hours.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We want the community to use and enjoy it. Yep. We realize that we could have fenced it off, but we want the community to enjoy it.
Great. Other questions for applicant? Yes.
Hi, thanks for coming tonight. My question is back to sort of the crossing of the street, but more about staffing. So I'm envisioning designated play times, and right now you have this one space and you have a person out there supervising all the kids. And I envision, kids wanting to cross the street. Some want to go play basketball, some want to stay over here. Does that increase your need for staff to have a person over here and a person over here, and then a third maybe to help kids across the street?
That's a great question. We would definitely not have one person doing just the, there would have to be two people there. I'm also envisioning, though, kids could be out for recess, where we have a recess monitor. Maybe the PE teacher wants to take them out to play basketball, then they're going to take it across the street for that. Or it could be even that, it might be, hey, we're going to choose a blacktop play day, or, today or whatever, and then they're all going to go across there. But yeah, there would never be one. Yeah, that would be, I can attest that would be far from safe.
Fantastic. But you're not worried about the staffing capacities?
Yeah, we
on
would,
that?
we would get whatever it takes if both areas, yes.
Good, thank you. Not seeing any others, thank you very much. If we have additional questions, we'll call you back up.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we will open the public hearing. Again, we invite members of the audience to come and speak. We ask that you write your name on the pad wherever it's, I think, up here at the podium. State your name and address, and provide your comments in the 3-minute limit. Thank you.
And go. Hey, I'm Joe Holler. I live at 1428 Lane Boulevard, which you can kind of see on here. I'll be brief. Look, if you look on Bryant Street towards the tip going that way, this entire lot used to look like that, which was just overgrown and uncared for. I have no connection to the school other than I live in the neighborhood, and since they've come in, they've cleaned, maintained, and brought value to this area. The part across the street is basically uncared for, sort of, or it was for years, essentially an abandoned lot because it's in that railroad right away. I imagine this is going to be the same thing. My wife and I walk by this every night when we go out to walk. We're happy to see that be of use to the community. That's it. I got nothing else to say. Please approve it.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jim Potter, James Potter, whichever you prefer. I live at 1216 Clinton Avenue. I'm here for several reasons. I received a letter from the Planning Commission or the City Commission because I also own, I'm on the other side. The gentleman here is on Lane. I own a home on Elcott, which is on the south side of the school. I'm not really a landlord. I'm a landlord, but my grandchildren and a daughter live there. That's the only reason I own that home. Anyway, I love having that playground area nearby for the grandkids. I think, I tend to be a social studies teacher. I think recreational facilities in an urban setting, I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion as to whether or not that usually benefits a neighborhood. I am not an official representative tonight of the Edison Neighborhood Association. I am on the board, but I am not an official spokesman for them. The only reason I bring that up is when I moved to Edison, part of the idea was to get involved in the community. So when I see an opportunity that I think is going to improve the entire neighborhood, I thought it was perhaps beholden upon me that I should get up here and say, you know, I support this because I think it's a win-win. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Any other? All right, do we have anyone online who's called in? Okay. Hearing that and seeing that, I will close the public hearing. Are there any technical questions before we open it up for discussion? No, just one. Did we get any other feedback from neighbors or others as part of this? Nothing. Okay, nothing additional. Great. Seeing no other questions, then if we could get a motion to approve the special use permit that would open this up for discussion.
Chair, I'll move to approve the special use permit for 1518 Bryant Street.
Thank you. We got a motion from Phelps. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Chambers. All right. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Excuse me, I just want to make a clarifying comment.
Thank you.
I didn't hear both addresses stated, and that may have been me clicking something, but I just want to make sure the motion is to approve
Thank you.
for the two addresses.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion.
Okay, so it's 1510 and
1510
1518.
and 1518, yes.
All right, and you're good with that? Thank you. Excellent. All right. With that clarification, is there any discussion on the motion? Not to put pressure, but
I will say something since I made the motion. I just think that the staff has done a good job vetting the applicant and the process, and I think that the applicant seems very clearly passionate about bringing some much-needed recreational use to the neighborhood and the community, so I think that they've done a good job, and I really support this.
thanks. Other discussion? No, thanks.
I'll just say I am excited about another park coming into the community. Parks bring residents together and a place just to kind of move any initiatives forward, so I'm glad to support this initiative. Happy to see the park.
Thank you.
I would also agree, it is nice to have a park that'll also be open to the community, especially in that neighborhood, because as we've had some residents state before, the area did have a lot of places where it was bare, unkept, and now that we do have that school there and it's been there for a while, and then you just have a place that kind of connects and will probably also bring you guys more students from years to come, just from having that connection, not knowing that it actually exists there. And so I think that that's a great idea, and you also follow into our plans that we have for Kalamazoo. Everything seems to match what we already have in the guidelines. There aren't any major changes that are going to happen. You're actually going to bring growth, and I'm excited for what you're going to bring, because we definitely need more parks and more things for kids to do, which falls into our neighborhood plans.
Any other discussion? I'll just say it's, per the staff report and everything I see, this meets all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And I'm glad that one of the speakers mentioned the railroad right-of-way, because this is vexing me, just the unique configuration of these lots, and why, you drive down Bryant Street and everything on the south side is undeveloped and practically I don't want to say unusable, because they're not unusable, but they're unused at the current state. And so to see these lots being put to a good use and not being left as just a place to park some cars that may or may not ever be moved, and some tires that may or may not ever be moved, I think is just so valuable beyond the recreational elements that have been discussed. So, great work. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Bias,
Yes.
Patelko,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Milliken,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Motion is, all right, this will go forward through site plan review and then off and away. Thanks. And thanks everyone for coming tonight. Okay, next item, PC 2022.07, the update to the public participation policy.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I don't know. Sorry.
At the June meeting, in the City Planners Report, I presented details on the updates of the public participation plan and noted that we had it posted publicly and we're seeking comments from a variety of groups, neighborhoods, developers and such, and that be bringing it back for you tonight to review and make a recommendation, hopefully for approval to the City Commission for the updates to this document. So I will very quickly touch base. This is not a new presentation, and so I'm not going to go over all of it, but quickly. The public participation policy is something that we've had from shortly after Imagine Kalamazoo, and it's the city's commitment to outreach and engagement, and it's meant to be part of our everyday work as opposed to just, a couple of big projects. The document includes an understanding of who should be at the discussion table and why, and it really highlights the importance of engagement at all stages of a project or plan, before, during, and after, to make sure that you are understanding impacts and being available to answer questions and such. So there are 3 major areas that we updated with the policy from the original one. One was adding specific developer or applicant outreach, and we've talked about this before. You know that most of the applicants, when they come up here, they talk to you about the engagement that they've done. Up until this point, it's been something that we have strongly recommended as staff, just for the success of whatever project they're doing. And what this does would be to codify it, so it outlines, depending on what you're requesting of what board, that you exactly what level of outreach you need to do. The second item is what we call a community of practice. And this is an internal working group from representatives of staff from across all departments for us to come together and, in the short term, who is going to what neighborhood in the next month? Oh, can you hand out my flyer? Oh, I want to go there the same night. Can we combine our events? Just to make sure that we are being as effective as we desire to be. Longer term, we hope that this group will help lead some efforts to do some communication audits to make sure that the publications that we're putting out, the flyers, the information, is the best that it can be and is clearly written and transparent in its information. We are, and I keep saying it, and the more I say it, the more it's going to be true, barreling towards IK 2035, right? So, this group is going to be important as we start to move towards that, to make sure that our engagement, we've set the bar, and so it's time to, move it up again, and so to kind of help with those efforts. The final update to this document is the updated engagement guide and toolkit, and I'm particularly excited about this because I actually just used this for I went through the whole tool guide for Kalamazoo Avenue, the two-way conversion project. And it was so helpful to go through and think about each of the pieces that it calls for. Things like, who's impacted by the project? Who are the stakeholders? What is their level of impact? Who needs to be at the table and why, and then you can kind of figure out your engagement activities as a result. That guide and toolkit also includes kind of lessons learned from the last couple of years in the virtual world and how that can be incorporated into our outreach. And so when you look at the toolkit, I think I have a slide of it. Maybe I do. We have, the activity, what you need to think about when you're doing the activity, and that includes if you wanted to make this a virtual thing, does that work and in what way? And, we've been incorporating, now that we're doing a lot of in-person things, there's still value in that virtual or digital opportunity to provide input, our phone call system that we have at these meetings, the public meetings, and so we've talked about that in this document as well. And those are the changes. We did receive a couple comments from a couple institutions, and we've made those changes, incorporated them into the document, and it is before you this evening.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Harrison.
One question. It was about the measurements and the evaluation for success in the processes and in the practice, especially the community of practice. Like, will there be a development process? How will that be evaluated? What is the overall goals that can be measured?
For the community of practice?
And for the overall success of the
So I think that public participation can be measured in a couple different ways, right? You can always measure by bodies in a space, right? But there's more to it than that, right? That's the quantitative analysis. The qualitative analysis is equally as important. Did you reach all the groups that you needed to reach? Were there questions afterwards? Did you inform them? And the toolkit at the end has a page in it, and I'm not sure, I might be able to bring it up for this group, maybe. That at the end of the toolkit, it talks about, hold on. There are two things in the toolkit, actually. One does talk about your stated goals and coming up with them for each individual project, so you can measure them at the end. You know, it's an exercise that you do. This is on on page 35, create an engagement strategy. And it talks about setting your goals and talking about opportunities, limitations to reach those goals. And then, sorry, I'm flipping through it and it's not coming up online. The last page in the toolkit or the guide part, page 40, is promote participation and communicate results. And so it, you know, gives space for you to think about what did you hear and what does that mean for the outcome. So we've kind of built in kind of forced anyone's hand who's using this to think through those pieces. As it relates to the community of practice, I think one of the first activities that group will do will be to set what those goals and what they want to measure against are. Again, I think we tend to gravitate towards quantitative things like numbers, but I really think it is, public participation is measured in trust, level of comfortability, you know, open lines of communication, people coming back for the next process because they participated in the first one. And admittedly, those are a little harder to measure. And I think that's what this group is going to have to do, is to figure out how we take those measures. Those are also long-term measures, whereas, you know, 100 people at a meeting is something you measure in an evening.
Other questions? Yes, Ms. Chambers.
My question was, I know you said that you guys had heard some things from the community. Were there some common issues that most community members had spoken on where this will definitely improve it?
So the comments that we got from the community were kind of specific, this needs to be clarified, or, you know, I'm not sure what this detail is saying, and it was clarification details. What I think the public participation policy will do is set a clear and transparent process for whether it's a project that I'm driving or that a developer is driving, and we always hear that is a desire and interest among the community. No one wants to hear about something late, right, and not have the opportunity to weigh in, or at least have the opportunity to understand. And so this kind of requires you to stop and think in advance and go through all of those pieces. And again, having just done it for Convert Kalamazoo, really been thinking about all the little pieces and who the stakeholders are. And as you do it with a group, you know, the project team, you're able to kind of it's a very complete exercise.
Good. Other questions, comments? Just to be clear, this is above and beyond the required notice that gets mailed for items that require a public hearing.
Correct. Anything that's listed in here is above and beyond the state requirements that we have for different boards and commissions and different actions. So if something's required to be in the newspaper, it'll be in the newspaper. If something requires mailing notices to property owners within 300 feet, property owners and occupants, then that does not change.
So this was not in effect for tonight's, but if we use tonight's hearing just as an example, it's a special use permit, which is included in here as a recommendation. It's recommended, and I forget, I was just looking at it.
You are correct. Not a required, they're not required to have a meeting. They are not required to go drop flyers and door knock, but it is strongly recommended because we think that makes for a more successful application.
So and this is not a critique, this is more of an explanation for everybody, just so we understand moving forward using this tool and interpreting. So in many ways, for special use permits, it doesn't necessarily change a whole lot, because it strengthens it a little bit as to what's recommended, but it was strongly recommended before and it's strongly recommended now. Where it really gives teeth is with those larger projects, like in what comes before us, the rezonings,
some street vacations.
in the rare instance that a PUD or a big NFP project or something would come before us.
Yeah,
something
and
like that.
part of our thought process with this is, later in the toolkit, it talks about high impact, low impact, high geography, low geography. And, a rezoning of a property, a street vacation, typically has the potential for a wider impact in a broader area than a variance for a side yard setback, right? I mean, I'm just taking two examples, but
Yeah.
that's, that is why it's scaled the way it is.
Well, no, I mean, we had that street vacation for the Edison School, for example, that was, it was an old platted road that was right in the middle of the Edison School. So there's an example of one that was low impact, whereas,
Right, that, we didn't even know that that right-of-way existed. right?
yeah,
But if someone was requesting an actively used right-of-way, circulation and movement is important. And in some places, the vacation is appropriate. In other cases, it may provide some challenges that need to be considered by this board.
yeah, like if in that last application today, they wanted to close that road between the school and the park, that might have been one that, we need to talk about this
Right.
and be engaged in that conversation. So, and again, I'm just using that as a hypothetical example, just because it's fresh in our minds and helpful. Okay. Good. It's a nice document. Good work. Any other question? What is the action that's requested?
It's a recommendation of approval to the City Commission.
Okay.
And this is how we approved it back in 2018 or 17 when we created it. And remember that this is part of our redevelopment ready community application or recertification that we get each year from the Michigan Economic Development Council, which is why we go through and do the formal approval process.
Great. Seeing no other questions, can we get a motion to recommend the public participation policy to the City Commission?
I'll move to make the recommendation.
Motion by Vyas, is there support?
Second.
Second by Patelko. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote, just to be formal.
Where's my, there. Okay. Harrison,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Bias,
Yes.
Milliken,
Yes.
Patelko,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Chambers.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good. Well, while you're there, your city planners report.
So I don't have a lot for you this evening. I wish I was further along in the zoning work to give you stuff. I hope that we'll have that at the next one. In the meantime, staff has been pretty busy with the very exciting project that's focusing on streets. And so for those of you, if you did not get a chance to watch City Commission meeting on Tuesday, we gave a presentation on the Streets for All project, creating a connected city, and specifically started to introduce the work that will happen for Convert Kalamazoo. And we are in the process of organizing lots of meetings over the next 6 weeks in locations in downtown, in the Stewart neighborhood. We're going to have an art hop on the streets. We'll be at lunchtime live to make sure that we are, again, when you're thinking about all the constituencies for downtown, you immediately gravitate towards those that live on the corridor or have businesses on the corridor. But it clearly impacts a wider audience than that. And so we need to really think about that live, work, play aspect. So who's coming into town to shop or visit, the businesses in and around, and those that live in and around. So all of those meetings are in the process of being scheduled. We have several that are firm and a few others that are still floating out there that all should be scheduled by next week. And so those meetings will be out there. And so I would encourage everyone to come and participate. The things that we're going to be seeking input on are specifically, the best areas for north-south pedestrian crossing improvements. Yes, lighted intersections, but other than lighted intersections, what does that look like, especially in the Stewart neighborhood, right? Because there are not lighted intersections that go through that neighborhood. However, Kalamazoo divides the neighborhood kind of in half school on one side. So what does that look like? Where are those best places? What do we need to be thinking about in terms of improvements? The other element for discussion will be for the section in downtown, so east of West Edge to Harrison, is what does that street section include? We do not have, a street is a fixed space. We have buildings on both sides. You know, we have to work within the area that we have and do not have room for everything. So what does that look like? What is most important in this location when you think about Kalamazoo Avenue itself, and then when you think about what will happen on Michigan Avenue in the future and other streets? So making decisions between, you know, the availability of on-street parking, or, you know, wider sidewalks with bump outs. You know, what does that look like? Because we have to be able to manage within the space that we have, and we want to make sure that we're creating a network that works for all of downtown. And so thinking about Kalamazoo now, but Michigan later. So that's pretty exciting. And I think that is all I have for this evening.
Christina, you said you're going to be at Art Hop. Is that tomorrow's Art Hop?
Oh, thank you. No, we will be at August 5th Art Hop. Yes.
And Lunchtime Live starting?
Lunchtime's Live will be starting probably the last week in July, but definitely in August.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll have everything up on Imagine Kalamazoo. We've been lucky enough to be able to partner with Southwest Michigan First. They hold a business town hall, and so one of our meetings will be at their business town hall. We will have another downtown meeting that we're trying to schedule still, and we're working with the Stewart neighborhood, and we're going to do have at least 2 discussions, Stewart Douglas, Kalamazoo College area, for the western section. And of course, parallel opportunities online for participation.
Exciting. Any other comments or questions? Good. All right. Thank you. Moving forward, do we have any public comments that have come in on the phone? Or anyone waiting online?
No comments right now.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Preo. Welcome to the dais, or the podium.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Hope you're enjoying your summer so far. Just a couple updates for you. Our city attorney has announced that he's retiring, if you've not heard already. It's a pretty big deal. He's been with the city of Kalamazoo, I believe, for 14 years. He's also one of 14 individuals who reports directly to the city commission. So, you know, we as a commission manage these 4 individuals, and so it's a big deal. I can't begin to convey how closely we work with this individual and how closely senior leadership and the entire city infrastructure and the public work with the city attorney. So we're taking it pretty seriously. There are 3 subcommittee members, Mayor Anderson, Commissioner Decker, and myself, who are serving on a subcommittee. We have elected to use Michigan Municipal League to help with that search. The great thing about their work is they have a wide breadth of working with different searches like this. We hope to really garner feedback from the entire commission, from senior city staff, and then we also hope to open it up to the public as well to have an outlet to provide feedback as well. So if you have any thoughts about who would make a great candidate or what qualities you'd like to see, just know that that'll be forthcoming. We're hoping to have somebody announced ideally early fall. If you haven't heard already as well, we had our community sustainability adopted at our June 21st meeting. It's a huge deal. It's a 10-year plan. And I'm just incredibly excited that we're taking the lead as a community to do that work. City Planner Anderson alluded to this, but she and 3 other senior staff members, including our road engineer, division leader within public services, and Director Kick, I'll give a presentation at our last city commission meeting. It was towards the beginning of the meeting, so you don't have to sit through the whole lengthy meeting, but I'm telling you, their presentation was fantastic, just showing some statistics like when we converted from 2-way to 1-way streets downtown, was it 11 miles per hour increase, like in the first year that happened. So they present on these sort of things and how it transformed our community for the worse, really, when that happened, and how the 2-way conversion and other projects are going to have a big impact on our community. So please check that out if you haven't had a chance. And then just 2 things to I guess, I'm particularly proud about. I find that in elected office that there's very high moments and there's very low moments, and not a whole lot of in between sometimes, but I'm really proud of the last month's work. We had $2.1 million go out the door to support youth initiatives, above and beyond what we normally do, to support youth this summer. 31 organizations are going to be supporting our youth this summer through KidNet, who's going to be serving as a subrecipient to get those dollars out the door. Parks and Rec has a lot of programming, including employment work and training this summer. And then the Police Athletic League started, and we funded $500,000 towards that program as well to support things like Rocket Football. The Rocket Football funding alone that we're funding this summer and in the fall will support an estimated 650 youth from our community, just that program alone. And then, in addition, we finally were able to get consensus to support $550,000 for gun violence intervention strategies. We're going to be working with United Way, which has a strong equity lens, and also has done great work on our previous grant allocations. It's going to be a closed process, so we picked 5 initial nonprofits to initially do this work that we know are on the ground, doing this work, doing it well. We want it to be informed, research-based work. But they're going to get to work, and hopefully those funds will be out the door in the next 10 weeks or so as well. But there will be more to come. We've committed to $1 million. We can do more than that. And we're also working closely with the county to try to double that impact so that we're working together with the county to do more as well. So I'm very pleased about that. And then in June as well, we allocated $1.1 million to support approximately 70 new housing units you're going to see coming up as well. So that's just in the last month, in addition to sustainability plans. So a lot of really cool, exciting things going on. And then you might have seen that we had a first reading to amend Chapter 22 of our Kalamazoo City Code. That's the general crimes and offenses. And the goal with that is to really decriminalize a lot of our law. One thing that City Attorney Robinson's really been committed to throughout his tenure is really trying to find some ways to really go through and vet our city code to really look for ways that we can decriminalize things like spitting on the sidewalk, from misdemeanors to civil infractions, or urination, public urination. I mean, instead of going to jail for, whatever amount of time and getting a hefty fine, making it a civil infraction. So you may have seen some articles about that that's had headlines saying decriminalizing urination and, littering. And it's not to be meant to say like, hey, public, go out and urinate and, litter all over our community. We're not asking people to do that. What we're just saying is we don't think that we should have a harsh fist for those sort of things. So we've got bigger fish to fry, and we need to focus on those priorities, and we don't want to send people to jail and have criminal backgrounds because of those kind of things. So that's about it. I hope you all have a great rest of the month, and see you next time.
Thank you. All right, Planning Commissioner comments. All right, Ms. Chambers.
I will say, I just want to thank all the city staff for you guys doing the work, especially with the community engagement and with the new updates that we're going to present to our city commission to be moved on to the next phase. I want to thank you for that. Also, I just want to thank you too for the updates with the one-ways that are going to be converted into two-ways. I think that that's going to be an excellent enhancement for the city of Kalamazoo as well, and I'm really excited to see those changes. And the last thing that I will say is that the next time that we'll see each other, elections will already have been passed. And we do have an August election coming up on August 2nd on a Tuesday. And so for those of you that have absentee ballots, make sure you vote as soon as possible. And those of you who are going to the polls, make sure that you vote and make sure that you pay attention to our judges in the county of Kalamazoo and our write-in candidates as well.
Thank you. Great tips. All right. Other comments? I need to look at the calendar. So our August meeting is scheduled for
The 5th.
the 5th of August. I know I am not going to be here. Are there others that know at this time they will not be here? All right. Mr. Patelka, August 4th?
The 4th is a Thursday.
Oh, the 4th, thank you.
The first week of August.
My bad.
What's that? Either way.
So
They'll
definitely
be in
missing.
separate places, not here.
Understood. So as the meeting gets a little closer, we'll check in to make sure that we are going to have quorum. I do believe we have one case kind of in the queue, and so we'll figure out, staff will figure that out and reach out if we need to make an adjustment.
Okay.
Because we definitely we don't want to go through the process of sending notices.
Right.
If we can't, if we don't have quorum, and if we need to make either pass on the meeting or reschedule it. So stay tuned, but thank you for letting me know. There'll be at least two that we know of unable to attend.
Yep. The other thing, I'll take a moment to sort of, one of the hidden gem, I don't know if I say this every summer, but one of the hidden gems of our community is the kick pool. And in the month of June was really hot, if you guys didn't notice. And I spend a lot of time at the kick pool because I swim on a swim team and we practice there. And I like to go to practice in the evenings because our team uses half the pool, and the Parks and Rec department has a Zumba class that uses half the pool. And it makes for a very festive atmosphere. They've got music going. They've got about 70 people over there just moving and shaking, and it's, I'm just waiting for the drink cart to come around.
That's for open swim later.
Yeah, okay. So it's really fun. It's great to see it used. And then when you stroll in at 6, the place is packed. I mean, there's so many people using it. So it's really great to see it well used. And then it was particularly well used, and it showed off really well. So my hat's off to all the staff that used it. We had a big swim meet there the weekend before the 4th. 500 swimmers. So you can imagine all the parents and family all over the state. We had teams from Flint, Livonia, Traverse City, Lansing, and then teams from around here all came in and swam at this meet 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's one of the most unique meets because at most meets you're up in bleachers, you're separated, it's very stale and very formal. This meet, there was a DJ playing music, the parents are sitting on the deck, there was sunglasses, they turn on a song and you just see everybody's shoulders start moving, hips start moving. It was really fun, and the weather helped, but the pool was, just the whole, everything, the facility really showed off. So kudos to staff, thank you for doing that, kudos to the city, really did well, so thank you.
And I guess I'll add on, for anyone who is not like a swimmer, but likes to go splash around, the memberships are available at the city office over on Mills Road. Or at the kick pool, you can just go there and get a individual or family membership for the summer.
Yeah.
Yes, splash pads, also great. Please use those.
Right, we now have a diversity of choices. All your aquatic needs. With that, enjoy the month, be kind, be well, and we are adjourned.
Have a good night.